Hi, everybody, and welcome. I'm Haley Mitchell-Haugen. I'm the editor of Sheila-Na-Gig Online and Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And tonight we are gathering to celebrate the publication of Paula Lambert's full-length collection, As If This Did Not Happen Every Day, which is now shipping from Sheila-Na-Gig. Very exciting. And then we're going to have some invited mic readers from Sheila-Na-Gig's Summer 2024 issue. So welcome, everybody. I'm going to read Paula's bio as a way of an introduction, but of course her work, and she will speak for herself, which will give us a much better sense of it. But for formality, Paula J. Lambert is a literary and visual artist from Ohio. Her full-length collections include The Ghost of Every Feathered Thing, How to See the World, which is a finalist in the 2021 Ohio Anna Book Awards, and The Sudden Seduction of Gravity. She's authored several chapbooks and is a literary translator. Awarded the 2021 PEN America L'Engle Raman Prize for Mentorship, Lambert's work has been supported by the Ohio Arts Council, the Greater Columbus Arts Council, and the Virginia Center for Creative Arts. She's the 2023 winner of the Slippery Elm Poetry Prize and the New England Poetry Club's Amy Lowell Prize. Was awarded in 2021 Editor's Choice Award from Sheila-Na-Gig Online, and was in 2019 winner of the Heartland Broadside Series. Paula owns Full Crescent Press, a small publisher of poetry books and broadsides, through which she's founded and supported numerous public readings and festivals that support the intersection of poetry and science, including the Sun and Moon Festival, now hosted by the Ohio Poetry Association. She lives in Columbus with her husband, Dr. Michael Perkins, a philosopher and technologist, and you can find her online at paulajlambert.com. So welcome, Paula. It's such an honor to publish this amazing little book and to have you here celebrating.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so pleased to be here, to see everybody here. It's always a little bit of relief, I think, when people show up. I'm just so pleased to be part of everything, to be part of Sheila-Na-Gig, to be part of this reading series. Jessica started us off a couple of weeks ago with just a fantastic reading, and I ordered her book immediately, right in the middle of things. And she and I don't think we can probably say too much yet, but we're hoping we're planning to read together sometime in the not too distant future. So that's a fun thing coming up too. I'm going to jump right in so I can fit in as much as possible. And I'm going to start with the first poem in the book, which is called What Grows from a Heart Stopped Cold. The trumpet vines had taken over the trellis, wound their way through to the screen porch floor, walls, roof. I cut it all down. My daughters didn't talk to me for days. We had so many hummingbirds then, flitting and buzzing with the fat black bees, carpenters doing their own damage. I had my reckoning with them too. But the scarlet trumpets dangled like candy, half of the hummingbirds disappearing inside them entirely. Later, in less happy times, I saw a Walton Ford painting, limed blossoms, read about boys chewing wheat paste to lime the trumpets, red like these. So when the birds flung their tongues into the nectary, ruby red necks following, just like these, they were stuck and died. Their terrified hummingbird hearts, so overworked to begin with, exploding in fear. The little boys sold the birds for ladies' hats. Some did it just for fun. Either way, the casual cruelty of boys has stopped so many hearts cold. Yet women bind themselves to them, limed by some invisible force, scarlet finery, ruby wealth, red necks. It's a hard world. I've tried to tell the children, be careful of what woos you. Our screen porch now is surrounded by wildflowers, bee balm, beard tongue, black-eyed Susan, hedge nettle and butterfly weed on every corner. The carpenter bees continue to buzz and thump. I let them. The hummingbirds have returned, less drunk and dizzy than before, maybe. less trusting, but hungry. And here, where a house still stands, awash with color of every kind, and stronger for what was, and stronger for what was, and stronger for what was torn from it. There we go. That's the first one. That was actually revised in a workshop I took a couple of summers ago in Wellfleet, Massachusetts. Quite a number of these, I'm from Massachusetts, and I went to Wellfleet to take a workshop with Marge Piercy, who was kind enough to write one of the blurbs for the book. I'm so honored by that. But a number of the people know me as a bird poet, and there are still bird poems in here. That was one, of course. But I've also been writing about whales and turtles and pythons and all kinds of creatures, really. That poem was actually revised in that workshop. It started as a little bitty, tiny, really short, ekphrastic poem that I really liked, but nobody else could understand it. Nobody could. My husband couldn't. Nobody got what it was about. And I took it to Marge as the ultimate test, and she said, yeah, no. So that's what it was revised into, is that first long poem. There are 3 sections in the book, and the first is kind of all about this idea of devouring, consumption, overconsumption. So the second poem is called Everglades Burmese Python. I don't know if you've heard of the invasive pythons in the state of Florida that have pretty much taken over the Florida swamps. It's kind of fascinating news, but it's kind of horrifying for me in the way that they're going after these pythons, which is that they're targeting the females, and they're using the males to target the females. So that really resonated for me. There's an epigraph on this poem by D.H. Lawrence. And so I missed my chance with one of the birds. I've got birds on my mind now, I'm sorry. And so I missed my chance with one of the lords of life. That's D.H. Lawrence. They killed her, of course. It was what they'd set out to do. Invasive, renegade, the actual stuff of nightmares. Her final meal was a white-tailed deer. 3 men it took to wrangle her. She didn't go down easily. For all their manpower, still she managed to slap one upside the head with her tail. Wouldn't you, I wondered, fight like hell after so many years of surviving in a place you never wanted to be? Wouldn't you devour every single thing in your path? Wouldn't you make plans for your progeny to strike fear in the hearts of men, men making plans of their own, sending horny male scouts fitted with radio transmitters and looking for mates into the swamp, leading the charge to search and destroy the females? All I can think is that she survived, and fiercely all these goddamned years, 18 feet long, 215 pounds, carrying 122 eggs. It's just next level for us, they said. Bigger than anyone knew, breaking every record they had, multiplying in ways they hadn't been able to fathom. 10,000 more, they warn the world, are out here in the lake of the Holy Spirit, this river of grass, these grassy waters going on forever. And next is Fish Falling Out of the Sky here. This is a poem called Rain of Animals, which is actually a meteorological phenomenon, rain, R-A-I-N, of animals. It's when a cyclone passes over a body of water, and it might pick up the fish or frogs or whatever. When it moves onto land and peters out, then it kind of drops what it was carrying. So that's how this happens. This was first published in Swim Every Day, which is, I really love Swim Every Day, and I'm proud that they've taken a few of my poems. But as soon as I saw it published the first time, I said, oh, what a missed opportunity. So I changed the rain in the title to R-E-I-G-N, Rain of Animals. And these are all, these poems are from real news headlines. These are real news stories. So, Rain of Animals. In Texas, fish pelted the pavement, less stunned than the men who found them in the parking lot. They'd come a long way, the fish. It was a hell of a ride, lifted from the sea by a force no fish brain could possibly have fathomed, slapped down dead at the used car dealership on Summerhill Road. The men who gathered, trying to figure out what in the name of sweet baby Jesus could have happened, were at a disadvantage, never having been lifted themselves, knowing plenty about plagues of frogs and locusts, but next to nothing about fishes come without loaves. They'd heard that crack of thunder 5 days past Christmas, 2 days before the New Year. Fish were dropping here and everywhere, they'd told the reporter, not knowing what to say except what was obvious. Broken fish bodies starting to stink up their shoes. The smell stayed with them all day, and now, after saying prayers and shivering in the cold that came with the storm, they stared at the ceiling, wishing there'd been a way to close those damn fish eyes, staring like they'd seen the face of God. And they guessed the fish had, and they guessed that that was blasphemy, and they guessed the fish had gotten what they deserved. So they closed their own eyes and curled up closer to their wives, women who'd been staring at the ceiling for weeks, who were pretty sure they knew what those fish had been through, and pretty sure they hadn't seen God. So here's another bird poem. This is called The Way of the World Seems Clear. And there are actually 2 poems by that name in the collection. Haley and I actually talked about whether we should change the title of the book to this, but I was pretty tied to the one we had. So this is the first of 2. The Way of the World Seems Clear. The way of the world seems clear as the heron stabs the fish and stabs him again and again. And as she lifts him in her beak and opens her beak unfathomably wide and opens her throat unfathomably. So the fish's broad tail, strange signpost to the last of the fish's existence, vanishes down the distorted gullet and into the oblivion of the bird's belly. Smaller fish, swallowed without the stabbing, swallowed whole and alive, die inside, as we all do, watching. And when the bird lifts the weight of her body, now with the weight of the fish's body, into the air, rising above the water's mirrored surface, the bird's reflection, the sun's, the sky's, we call this heron a Holy Spirit, the clouds on the surface of the water a miracle, the bob and weave of shadows swimming below, part of the circle of life. What is, what feeds, what keeps us alive. And now 2 from the second section of the book, which is more, anger can only sustain itself so long. It's important, and it provides a certain amount of energy for the things we need to do, but it can't go on forever, not continuing to be helpful, I guess. So the second part of this book is sort of reckoning with grief. And there are a number of longer poems in this section, so 2 from here. The first is Invitation, House Sparrow. From the next room, I heard what I couldn't identify, a kind of clawing. I found the bird in the dining room window, beak entrenched in the threads of the screen, neck wrenching with determined thrust as she yanked what she needed for her nest. My own jaw dropped wide open, so surprised by the perfect square of the hole that framed her, the strength of her every twist and pull. I swear, when she saw me, she was angry, eyes flashing black light, the top of her head dark as a bruise against the brown of her body. Who are you to intrude? Mind your business. In another flash, barely seeming to move at all, she glared at me from a branch full of blossoms in the pear tree 3 feet away, defiant, daring me to stop her. One house builds another. She offered the gift of her need. Who was I, indeed, to refuse it? And one more, this is the last poem in this section, The Limb. I don't often read this one, but it's a poem I like a lot, The Limb. My fear is that you'll look up one day and see all that you've missed. I fear that more than you not looking up at all and never knowing and never changing your ways. You'll have to do this all. You'll have to do this all over again, you know. It's seeing that saves us. Here, I want to say, and all the hard work that comes after. But it isn't work, is it? So much as letting go. A bird who thinks too much will never lift off the branch. Bird has only to look up, see the sky, and know her place in it. Then it's as if the branch had never existed at all, and also like it had been there all along. It's heartening to look up and see little bits of clapping. It's just heartening. Can't hear it, but I can see it. And then just a couple of poems from the last part of the book. And this puts us back in Wellfleet. That works, not all, the whole book wasn't written there, but quite a few of the poems in the book were. And I kept writing after I came back. So Wellfleet is, again, I grew up in Massachusetts, but I had been to the Cape as a kid, but I had never gone all the way out to the very tip of the little arm there. And Wellfleet is very close to that. Provincetown is just past that. The Cape Cod National Seashore, of course, is there. And the Audubon Wildlife Center is right there in Wellfleet. So we would work really, really hard all through the first part of the day. And then I would take off and go to the Audubon Center or to the seashore, the National Seashore, basically for material. And I kept following the Cape Cod news after I got home and kept writing. And I got really concerned for, of course, and trance with the turtles, the cold stunned turtles. So because of climate change, climate crisis, the temperature of the waters are shifting at times of the year that were not helpful for the turtles. They're normally, if I'm getting this right, if I'm remembering right, their migration is usually finished before the water gets very, very cold, but they're getting colder earlier. And they just can't move in it. So that's what the cold stunned turtles are. And they have to be they literally have to be rescued. There are people who patrol the shore every night looking for these shadows, you know, in the water, and they go in and bring them back to shore to thaw, basically. This is called winter. In Wellfleet Bay, cold stunned turtles drift on the surface of the sea, Christ-like, no less miraculous. We're due for this lesson, slowing down when we feel overwhelmed. Stopping is an answer, if only because it's all we can do. Wait to be rescued. Dark shadows patrolling the shore need to believe they can do some good. What is the sea otherwise but the crash and roar of abyss beside them? What even the cold light of dawn without the weight of something with a heart still beating, still breathing in their hands? Something they can save and something they can save and set on its way, that they too, now multiplied, can go on. I did some errands this afternoon and hurried. They took longer than I thought, and I hurried to get back here. So I'm still a little flustered and a little. So thanks for bearing. And I also don't have the right glasses. My screen glasses I just couldn't find. So we're going with this. So I have one more. Let's see if we can get all the way through this one. This is another Wellfleet poem. And it was written during that class, for that class. And it was written when at the Wildlife Center, at the Audubon Center there. It's called The Mechanics of Flight. The mosquitoes are feasting in Wellfleet, mostly on me. 14 bites on one uncovered arm as I greet my host in the drive. We've never seen anything like it, she tells me. But I think of the birds I came here to see, comfort myself thinking they'll be feasting too this year. fat and happy in the marshes along the shore. Later, at the sanctuary, I ask the ladies in the welcome center 3 times before they understand me if that thinking is right. Much as that helps us, says one. Small comfort, sniffs another. On the salt marsh trail, air crisp with the scent of the sea, a red-winged blackbird cries for my attention, flits and darts before landing on the bridge before me. See me, he says, aren't I pretty? I laugh my way toward him and he flies into the reeds, lands on a blade so tall and fine, I can't believe it supports his weight. See what I can do? See? And when he's sure I have, he flies to the top of a tree in the oak grove, then, not satisfied, finds an even higher perch. See how high I can fly, he says. See me? See? But a blue-gray catbird has grumbled loudly, swooping before me so my eye can't help but follow him back to the reeds. I study his shape and sound, unsure what he intends, but the red-winged blackbird sings out shrilly. When I turn back to him, he's gone. It's been a long day, but I know he means for me to follow him, the only direction he could have gone, inward. Deep in the grove, I spot an egret, holy, white, alone. I gaze in stunned silence while the split-tailed swallows dive and dart as if the scene were not exquisite enough. I stare until I'm full, can feast no more, turn back to the path I came from, marveling that I'd not felt one mosquito bite all afternoon, until one does, suddenly in the center of my right scapula, tiny thrust nudging me to remember the vestiges of all my lives, the mechanics of flight, that we all have wings or had them once, that each feast is the same as every other, that here we nourish one another. That's the last poem in the book and the last poem I'll read. And I'm just so grateful to Haley and Sheila-Na-Gig and to all of you for coming to listen today. And I look forward to what follows. So thank you.
Thank you, Paula. It's just an amazing reading and always great to hear the poems come off the page. We work so closely with them, getting the book together, and it's like you don't see the words anymore until you hear somebody read them. So thank you. You've been listening to Paula Lambert read from her recently released collection, As If This Did Not Happen Every Day, from Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. And now we're going to move into our invited mic section of the evening with just a handful of contributors to our summer 2024 issue. And Richard Allen Taylor is going to start us off. Welcome, Richard.
I just want to say thank you. I'm really thrilled to be involved with the reading. I was thrilled to find Sheila-Na-Gig. It turns out that I had a couple of friends who had published poems in the magazine online. And so that's how I found you. It was sort of a referral type deal. And I'd like to read first the poem that I had in the summer edition. It's called Blessed Are. It was inspired by the way, I'm reading from Greenville, South Carolina. My poem Blessed Are was inspired by reading a book by Kate Partridge. And the first poem in her book is called An Ode on Inheritance. And after reading her poem, I decided I had some more things that I wanted to say about that subject. So here we go. Blessed are. Perhaps there is no inheritance worth having that does not include a narrative of water, a river, a lake, an ocean, pounding on the beach below the open windows. My father bought a farm with a white house on a hill, a pond at the bottom. My mother inherited. She later sold. All of it was, shall we say, liquidated, gone the tiny lake fed by a stream, tumbling over my father's modest ambitions. Just as well, my brothers and I sought neither the view nor the serenity. We were reaching elsewhere for something less pastoral, more hopeful, something more highway than country road. But even a cave can elicit hope. The torch goes out. We keep thrusting our hands forward, groping the walls, feet following our blindness, as if a hole could lean against its sides. All it takes is the will to swap adjectives, trade wet for slick, choose briny over soaked. Here we go again with that narrative of water, snow, hail, ice melting in your palm. Later, when the drought squeezes the pond dry, the spark catches and fire climbs the hill. Everything promised burns. The difference between bold and meek becomes a matter of timing. Bold when we rush forward to extinguish the blaze, meek when the flames force us back to a place where faces do not melt. When rain comes finally, we inherit the memory of blackened hills, even if no lawyers or signatures attend. When grief follows, we console ourselves. We say the trees bury their seeds under layers of ash. We say the trees dream of resurrection. And so I read my second poem from my newest book called Letters to Karen Carpenter and Other Poems. And this is definitely another poem. This poem has nothing to do with Karen Carpenter. It was actually a wedding poem I wrote for a couple of friends of mine. It's called Something Else. Something old usually refers to an antique object, an heirloom, but I prefer to think of history, geology, biology, back in time to the moment of ignition that sparked creation. The torch carried 14.8 billion years since the Big Bang, 4 billion since Earth birth, 200,000 since your tribe, Homo sapiens sapiens, set in motion the notion of procreation that eventually led to you with your original Earth particles and Big Bang neutrinos bouncing around inside to prove that something old is you. And it's about time you got married. Something new is a matter of spin. The way your orbits have stabilized around each other like a dual solar system with not as much wobble as before, but still eccentric enough to have an apogee and a perigee and center of gravity you both are drawn to, not like the ball and chain, but like two weights dropped from the leaning tower of Pisa that never hit the ground, but whirl away to a private universe where joy and pain swirl together to make something new. A parfait you can eat with 2 spoons. Something borrowed. Something borrowed is the book you lent me 3 years ago. Gratefully returned. Call it a short story collection. Call it a rare book you thought you'd never see again. Call it a wedding gift. And since I haven't read it yet, may I borrow it again? Like a comet, it will return every few years. Or call it a boomerang, a token of love and generosity you give freely to others with no thought of recompense, no late fees, no penalties. And because your universe is round, every something borrowed you ever lent will always come back to you. Something blue could be your garter, or if you're lucky, a symbol of loyalty, or if you're unlucky, a symbol of moderation and self-control, or if you're indifferent to luck, It might be something heavenly blue, like planet Earth as seen from space. Something blue could be treasured, like a sapphire, a blue M&M, or a prehistoric cave painting with blue deer and blue bison, which would be a complete surprise since prehistoric cavemen had no idea how to make blue paint. Our wish for you is a life with no need to sing the blues unless it makes you happy. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Schomburg Kanke, and I'm coming to you from Tallahassee, Florida. And I actually muted myself instead of sending something in the chat. That's why I don't usually do chat. I have a YouTube channel called Meter and Mayhem where I interview various writers. And so folks might want to check that out. It's a really fun series. But the poem that I'm going to read first is from the summer issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, and it's an ekphrastic poem. So I'm going to put in the chat, see if I can chat without, there we go. It's an ekphrastic poem about a painting that Holly Dunn painted. She's better known as a country music singer from like the mid 80s to the early 90s. And then she left country music in the early aughts and went out to the Southwest and became a painter. And she passed away from ovarian cancer in 2016. So this is the poem Salsa. Ripened tomatoes still on the vine, crowding around bell peppers of yellow, orange, and deep red. They are only pieces, not yet together as a whole, not yet what they will someday be. Dream of what will come next, the garlic and the lime, a small earthenware bowl. Dream of that moment when the day has been long and it's hard not to remember all you have left and all that's left you. How she will offer up the world on a spoon, just for a taste, just a small sample, just enough. And this next poem, I'm currently working on a reimagining of Longfellow's poem Evangeline, but rather than being in Nova Scotia in the 18th century, it is in Florida in the mid 80s. So this is the prelude to Jacqueline. This is the Panhandle Gulf, the frolicking mullets and ghost crabs, bedded in sand and in armor pale, indistinct in the sunshine, stand like battle-worn bots with pincers sharp and dissuading, stand like drummers proud with legs that scuttle sideways. Soft from its tranquil expanse, the shush-voiced encompassing ocean speaks, and in accents quite southern-like questions the woot of the beach sand. This is the Panhandle Gulf, but where are the hearts that beneath it leaped like the fish when he feels in the river the splash of the gator? Where are the bald green peanuts, treat of Floridian fishers, folks whose lives sputtered out like Chevy exhaust on the highway, darkened by shadows of God but reflecting an image of slavery? Waste are those beach umbrellas and the families for homeward departed, scattered like pollen and dust when the gentle breeze of mid-April sees them and bring them all down and scratch at our throats and our eyeballs. Not but the driving remains out Old County Road 67. Ye who believe in internet memes that hope and endure and are cheesy. Ye who believe in the beauty and strength of soul transformation. List to repeated memories, still shared in the night with a wine glass. List to a tale of love in the Hassie, home of the healing. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Judith Sornberger, and I'm going to start by reading a poem from the summer issue. It's an ekphrastic poem also, and let me just say that the painting by Eastman Johnson from 1879 was called Child with a Rabbit, and it was a painting of his daughter. And I first saw it in third grade on a field trip to the Joslin Museum in Omaha, Nebraska, where I was raised. And I just immediately felt connected to this girl and this rabbit in the painting. And I have seen it many times since in returns to Nebraska. So this is what it's about. It's called Returning to Child with a Rabbit. How I yearned to lose my fingers in the deep dream of your rabbit's fur when my fourth grade class visited your museum, to make my lap a silky nest for her as you do. How I longed to stay behind when Miss Hunt pulled us into the next room to observe an Inuit windbreaker made of seal's intestines. Cool, the boys whispered, clouding the glass with fascination. But I was back with you, a girl who, but for the stiff tickle of lace around your neck, could have been my cousin. Did your mother cut your brown bangs straight across like mine did? Tuck your hair behind your eyes, your ears, to show your pretty face? Your downcast eyes are all devotion, so I couldn't see their color. Brown like your rabbit's, green like mine. Allowed to linger with you longer, would I have seen you smooth your palm over her brown velvet ears as mine itched to? Might you have lifted your eyes into mine, grinned an acknowledgement that we were kin? Seen in my face the old woman I'd become, visiting you now, grateful for the way you've never stopped holding our childhood. So here's another very recent poem. As the mother of two twin 50-year-old sons, I find myself continuing to borrow young women as kind of daughters. And this is called Other Women's Daughters. Cashiers at checkout counters often admire the rings I wear on age-starred hands. Sometimes the cameo, the curly-haired, carved maiden on my middle finger. My grandma has one just like that. She gave me the matching necklace. Sometimes the fire opal set in hammered silver, a moon glittering between what could be wings if they were horizontal. Today, as I pay for dog food at Petco, you ask if it symbolizes the triple goddess, you know, the Virgin Mother Crone. I do know, but have never seen the ring that way. I suppose I am a goddess, at least the crone, I joke. Oh no, you guess, you can't be more than 50. 70, I sigh. No true crone would be flattered by your earring-studded eyebrows rising. But I love you for it, even if it is a kindly fib. My mom was like that, always looked young for her age. She died a few months ago at 73. Suddenly, I don't feel so young. No one waits behind me, and I would hug you, but for the counter between us. Do you worship the goddess? I ask as you pull a pentagram pendant from beneath your work blouse. Not exactly. I'm mostly just into nature. Is that why you work here, I wonder? To be near animals? Though your register couldn't be farther from the ferrets, parakeets, and geckos? Oh, nature girl. Why didn't I ask your name? Let you know you've been loved, if only briefly, by a mother's eyes. Would you mind if in my mind I called you Gaia? Claim you as a momentary daughter? Thanks.
Paula, thank you for the reading from the book and for bringing mosquitoes back to me. When I was young in the hot, humid Philadelphia August, we referred to them as Jersey bombers. And I'm out here, Robbie and I are, I guess, the span of distance here. I'm out on the Olympic Peninsula of Washington State now, and not to curse us, but up in the North Olympic Peninsula, we don't really have mosquitoes. I mean, you can see one. They don't really have snakes either, but I wouldn't test that in the Olympic National Park. I don't know. They're bringing every predator back to that park. Okay. One from the issue of Sheila-Na-Gig, and of course, my hats off, my honor and love to Barbara and Haley and this lovely magazine. I haven't been involved, as I'm sure some of you have, with starting a few of these ventures. I understand how they go and can go wrong, and this one has had a firm intelligence from the beginning, and it's remarkable. I'm proud to be back in it. This poem is called Hugging a Stranger. It boiled down to that from on the intimacy of saying goodbye to a stranger. So like that, hugging a stranger, sometimes even as goodbye. The closeness of another body makes you ache. Breath you can taste, almost swallow. Skin you imagine touching yours. Sometimes it just makes you sad, remembering the one gone and forgotten, until the momentary warmth of two strangers spreads under skin. So what's the point of the falderall, the old urges, sudden memories that royal sleep? Distance is what we're made of. Distance is what we're left with. Distance is what we're made of. Is how the ending goes. I blew my own ending. It's all right. I'm quite drawn. I've written some massively long poems, like page and a half, maybe 3 pages once. But my basic tendency is minimalism, and I'm just going to read. I think I'm going to read this little minimalist one. Bang. From the smallest beginning, the structure of this universe grew like a balloon, endlessly filling with rocks and gases and explosions and the silence that's permanent. Then we came with our questions and our fear. Thank you all. Nice to be here.
Okay, so that means I'm closing the reading. As I said, I live in Lima, Peru, and the poems don't really need any explanation. The first one is from the summer edition of Sheila-Na-Gig, and the second one is the title poem from my book, The Rain Girl, which was published by Chaffinch Press in Ireland. So, spurned. She put her unspent love into a cardboard box, added a few choice curses, and shut the lid firmly. He hadn't even seen her when he nearly bumped into her in his breathless trajectory towards the long-haired, blonde, long-legged, tanned, slim-waisted, soft-lipped, fake Barbie. May her bed become infested with bed bugs. May her legs and armpits grow untamable, shaggy undergrowth. May her hair fall out in clumps, her teeth rot to black stumps, her lips reduced to too thin slices. Better still, make her face fall off. May their children be fat, stupid, snotty, and may his penis hurt when they make love. She then dropped the cardboard box into the flames of the fireplace, fearing she may open it one day and forgive. The second one is short. A marriage. The vain girl lives in her dreams and in a house without a roof, where mushrooms push through the carpet and a beehive is forcing its tumorous growth through the piano strings. As weightless as a new soul, she stares at him in distress. And why would she remember lightness now? Thank you.
Thank you, Rose Mary, and thank you for all of our readers celebrating the summer 2024 edition of Sheila-Na-Gig Online, and to our featured reader, Paula Lambert, reading from her new book, As If This Did Not Happen Every Day, now available from Sheila-Na-Gig Editions. Thank you, everybody, for being here. You can find us at Sheila-Na-Gig blog.com. I'll get that right. All right. Thank you, everyone.